I feel like the Nintendo Switch has more in common with like a can of chili than it does with this. Because, man, the relationship between the Switch and Amiibo is so complicated, and like, I don't know what they're doing here. So let's briefly go over the history of Amiibo in general. You know, it almost kind of feels like Amiibo was done just to appease investors who are like, Nintendo, where's your Toys to Life figures? Because this was 2014, and this was the era of Skylanders bullshit. And I never really got into Skylanders. I've tried all the games for a Scott the Woz episode on Toys to Life games, and I found a lot to enjoy about the concept of Skylanders. I just didn't really like care about the games themselves all too much. But that doesn't matter, because these games took the world by storm, and by world I mean 2011 children. And then soon after we got games like Disney Infinity, where Disney did similar things, and then eventually in 2015 we got Lego Dimensions. You know, it just kind of felt like if you had properties that could translate over to these merchandisable figurines where, you know, you want to collect them all, but then you can scan them into video games. You know, it felt like if you had the potential to do that, you should do that, because these games were popping back then. And of course, like, you know, when you think about, hey, merchandisable IPs, figurines, collectible, video games, it was just an obvious thing for Nintendo to try Toys to Life. So we got Amiibo, initially with Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, but Nintendo's take on Toys to Life was a little bit different from, you know, your average Skylanders or Disney Infinity, where there, when you scan the figure, you know, you're able to finally play as that character. Whereas with Amiibo, it's more so like it varies from game to game, and that's the core thing. Numerous Nintendo games supported Amiibo. I mean, this was a big damn deal. I mean, they originally had this corner reserved to tell you if there's Nintendo Network compatibility in the game, basically like if the game connects to the internet, and they just flat out replaced that when Amiibo came out to just tell you, hey, this game is compatible with Amiibo, which is a little strange because I think internet compatibility for some games is a little more important than Amiibo support. So for example, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, I kind of feel like the fact that you can play online is a little more important than playing a doubles match with your Amiibo. But whatever, yeah, the Amiibo support, let's make sure you know that on the front of the box. But I think it was all about marketing. Because it turns out Amiibo were pretty damn popular, at least comparative to what Nintendo was doing at the time, so maybe Amiibo weren't too damn popular. Nintendo really needed a win in 2014, 2015, and Amiibo were just like a big craze amongst Nintendo fans and toy collectors alike. And it just felt like it was because like every single little thing was just checking the boxes for not only Nintendo fans, but collectors, you know? You start off with the Super Smash Bros. Line, and you know, the fact that it's a big crossover of not only Nintendo's franchise, but third-party franchises as well, pretty much ensured that like literally everybody had at least one figure they gave a shit about in the Super Smash Bros. Line. Like, no matter who you are, there is one character that you're like, oh, I really like that character. So there's a chance that you'd buy that figure, but then you see the other figures on the shelf. That's what got me. You know, I originally just got Mario just to try out Amiibo functionality with Smash Wii U. And then, you know, I went to Target and I saw all these other figures, and I heard how like, oh, everybody was like trying to collect them all and stuff, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll get one more, and then another, and before I knew it, I was trying to get the entire damn Smash line. But the fact that these figures were so hard to come across, or at least like a good chunk of them, so for example, like Mario was like easy as piss to find. Yeah, try to find piss, you'll find it. Comparative to Ness at the time when Ness released, I believe he was a GameStop exclusive, and like, yeah, there was no way you were getting this. Just that sensation of trying to find these things was just so damn hot. It was frustrating, but still oddly fun in its own way. You know, I don't really think these figures would have been as like exciting to pick up if they were all as readily available as people claim they wanted them to be. Case in point, why Amiibo started to slow down? The damn Animal Crossing line. By the time we hit late 2015, the Super Smash Bros. Line had basically run its general course. Of course, they still had some DLC characters to pump some figures out for, and eventually in 2018, you know, it kind of started back up again with Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, so, you know, they had to do the characters from that game as well. But generally speaking, you know, they kind of got most of the characters by the end of 2015. So Nintendo thought, well, damn, we need a new line of figures to keep people excited. So they were like, okay, well, we have to do Animal Crossing. And that was like the perfect idea. Animal Crossing Amiibo. It's just like, yeah, that's ingenious. Everybody thought of that. Problem is, they did not have an actual Animal Crossing game to coincide with the release of Amiibo. So, yeah, they just kind of, you know, farted this out. Alongside Animal Crossing Happy Home Designer on the 3DS, which wasn't, like, as bad. It was just kind of, like, there. And that released alongside the whole line of Animal Crossing Amiibo cards. This released alongside the Animal Crossing Amiibo figures. And they just did it on those things. By the time this released, Nintendo generally figured out a lot of their Amiibo stock problems. So, yeah, the Animal Crossing Amiibo figures flooded the store shelves, which kind of made it hard for people to really care about needing to pick them up. In addition to the fact that this game just, you know, like, you know, sucked ass. And that's just the thing, like, Amiibo support in games, like I said, was different from like your Skylanders or Disney Infinity. And Amiibo support could be anything from like, yeah, you play as the character in the game to like you just get like a small little bonus in it. So I don't think Amiibo were doing well because people desperately wanted to unlock things in Amiibo supported games. You know, it was just something where it's like, hey, you know, let's make video games and let's add some Amiibo support to them, and then let's make some figurines and say, hey, you know, if you buy this, you can unlock something in your Wii U or 3DS games. It was kind of something where they mutually helped each other out, but, you know, neither one of them necessarily relied upon the other. I have a strong feeling a very large percentage of Amiibo owners never scan them into any game. But even with that, the fact that the Animal Crossing Amiibo were so prevalent, and they were working with a game nobody gave a shit about, and the fact that it was kind of supposed to replace the Smash Brothers line, and it's just like, yeah, Animal Crossing is damn popular, but it's like the Animal Crossing Amiibo line is only gonna appeal to Animal Crossing fans, whereas the Smash Brothers line appealed to, like, literally every video game fan. So the fact that they, like, overstocked the Animal Crossing Amiibo, the fact that they worked with a dog shit game, that's where Amiibo started to slow down. That was kind of the downfall of the Amiibo line at that point. But not necessarily, because keep in mind, that was still 2015, and Amiibo, like still happen. So it's not that that moment killed Amiibo. I think that moment just kind of made Nintendo just kind of like re-look at like what Amiibo does for their business. It gave them a great boost in relevance and popularity and just excitement during one of their less ideal times as a business. But, you know, that wasn't gonna last forever, because I think a big reason for that was it was Smash Brothers. So 2014, when Amiibo launched, like, Nintendo was trying to be very careful with Amiibo. They didn't want to pull a Skylanders and lock too much content behind the figures. They mainly just did, like, little costumes, or how they did it in Smash Brothers, where you train up your little figure, then it fights like you. You know, Hyrule Warriors, you scan an Amiibo, you get, like, a damn rupee. Who cares? Then moving into 2015, they started to get a little more ballsy with Amiibo support. You look at something like Mario Party 10, and you unlock the whole Amiibo Party mode in that game, and that's like full-on, like, traditional Mario Party. It's still not good. I mean, the boards are a damn square, but still, I mean, like, Mario Party 10 is like the worst Mario Party game, and it's because of that stupid-ass, dumb, stupid-ass fucking car. But if you want more traditional Mario Party gameplay, buy some Amiibos, you dumb bitch. And then you look at stuff like, of course, the Animal Crossing games that launched that year, and basically most of Nintendo's first-party games supported Amiibo. You know, they were going very hard with Amiibo in 2015. And then 2016 was kind of like they were starting to be like, all right, you know, let's slow down a little bit. And then we enter 2017. With their new console launching. All right, what's going on here? And yes, it turns out a lot of Nintendo Switch games support Amiibo. Way more than I would have thought. You know, originally I kind of thought like, hey, you know, probably more 3DS games support Amiibo than Nintendo Switch games. That's not the case. It's a bit close, but more Switch games support Amiibo. But I just find it so weird what games do and what games don't. Every year, I'm kind of expecting Nintendo to just kind of stop doing Amiibo. It just feels like it's the end. Like, we haven't seen a figure in so long, and then they announce like 5 figures, and then one random game, it's like, oh yeah, that supports Amiibo for some goddamn reason. It all started with Breath of the Wild, and this was always poised to have Amiibo support. They released Twilight Princess HD on Wii U, and every physical version of that came bundled with the Wolf Link Amiibo, and that was originally said, like, yeah, that will work in Zelda Wii U. That was what Breath of the Wild was called at the time. And not only that, but there was a line of Breath of the Wild amiibo that launched alongside the game. But would you know that, looking at the box art? Yeah, Nintendo kind of started hiding amiibo compatibility in Switch games. Not necessarily hiding them, but, you know, it just kind of became just a little footnote on the box art comparative to, like, replacing the fact that, oh yeah, our game has online functionality on the front of Wii U game box art, so, you know, I think this makes a little more sense. But at the same time, it does kind of feel like Nintendo is de-emphasizing Amiibo quite a bit with the Nintendo Switch. It's not as important to show that, oh yeah, our game has Amiibo support. Very much feels like a small little bonus thing. If you know, you know. Because that's what it's felt like throughout the entire Switch generation. For example, Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. This was announced via that Mario 35th Anniversary Nintendo Direct. They had the trailer for this game in there, and like, they skipped out on a lot of stuff in that trailer. They just kind of showed 3D World, and then it was like, hey, 3D World is on Switch, and then like, oh yeah, here's Bowser's Fury, and it's coming out in February 2021. That's all that trailer really showed, and then afterwards, they had a lot of announcements where it was like, oh yeah, 3D World has online multiplayer, but they also said we're releasing amiibo figures for this game. So, you know, it's not like, oh, they're trying to hide the fact this game has amiibo support. This was just a trailer that didn't really say anything about 3D World on Switch. But you know, it always kind of felt like if you're not doing your research, you don't really know amiibo figures are coming out half the time. But whatever, let's just kind of go over some of the games with amiibo support on Switch. So, you know, first off, like I said, originally Breath of the Wild launched with the Switch, and that had a fair amount of amiibo support. So it primarily works with just the Legend of Zelda themed amiibo, and those will give you like special items. So it's like, you know, if you have a Twilight Princess Link amiibo or the Smash Brothers Link amiibo, you'll get a costume based on, you know, Twilight Princess Link. Wolf Link is probably one of the more unique ones just by the fact that, like, when you scan him in, then you get just like a companion that, you know, will fight enemies for you, which is pretty crazy. And scanning the standard Link figure in, you'll get Epona that appears, and you can, you know, ride Epona as your horse. And like pretty much any other amiibo will work and just give you like just random stuff. You know, that's kind of the baseline amiibo support that a lot of games do. Like, oh yeah, scan any amiibo figure works, and it'll just give you just some bullshit. But I felt like Breath of the Wild kind of breathed new life into amiibo. The fact that, like, this game was so big at that time, like, everybody was playing it, and everybody just wanted to get everything possible and get some cool materials, get some cool costumes to wear, and the amiibo did that. And you know, they were pretty cool amiibo to boot. Specifically the Guardian amiibo with his adjustable legs, and he's like really big. Just very cool. And on top of that, it didn't really feel like you were missing out on anything by not getting the amiibo. I didn't play the game with amiibo until very recently, and I never felt like I was missing out on anything. So, like, yeah, I think Breath of the Wild did, like, fine with amiibo support. It's not the craziest because it's just like, you know, like what? Like you get like items. But Wolf Link is definitely a really cool bonus edition. That's definitely like a really cool thing for people who, you know, bought Twilight Princess HD. Well, now you get Wolf Link in Breath of the Wild. And it's such like a weird little bonus thing that it doesn't feel like, you know, core to the Breath of the Wild experience. At least to me, it doesn't really feel like, oh damn, they're locking Wolf Link behind like an amiibo figure. How dare them? I'm not getting the full Breath of the Wild experience. It's just, this is like some weird bullshit going on. Non-canon fan who the hell cares? It's just some kind of funny thing going on. So that never bothered me. I didn't mind that. Of course, a month later on Switch, we got Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. And we might as well talk about the Wii U ports here because, you know, a lot of the Wii U games supported Amiibo, so, you know, naturally, you'd assume the Switch games would as well. And, yeah, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe does the exact same thing with Amiibo that the Wii U game did. Of course, the Wii U game launched before Amiibo came out, so, you know, they updated the game later on to include Amiibo support. And, yeah, they're Mii costumes. Pretty much you scan an Amiibo and you get a Mii costume based on the character. Yeah, it's a bit of like, it's fine. It's not the bare minimum Amiibo support. The bare minimum Amiibo support would be like, oh yeah, we work with every single Amiibo. When you scan an Amiibo and you get 10 coins. I mean, that would have been kind of useful in Mario Kart 8 because the coins, you know, unlock a lot of the car parts. So, you know, I mean, like, hey, scan a bunch of Amiibo and get some car parts early. Like, sure. Some of the Amiibo costumes are definitely pretty cool, but at the same time, you know, they just feel a little worthless to me. Because it's something like, oh man, a Mario costume for my Mii. Motherfucker, Mario's already playable in the game. Why do I want to dress like him? There's also some suits that they added that weren't originally in the Wii U game. It's like the Splatoon racing suit and the Daisy racing suit. Oh boy. Which once again feels a little like, you know, whatever, because it's just like Daisy's already in the game. You know, the Splatoon characters are already in the game, so it's just like, okay, cool. But it's just like, it's more so to just like give you that sensation of like, man, the Amiibo figure I bought unlocked something so cool. It's like that Mii Racing Suits menu screen. It's just kind of like satisfying to see every single one get a check mark. And like seeing one without it, it's just like, well, son of a bitch, I need the Toad Amiibo now. Speaking of which, we do have Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, which was originally on Wii U. And this also, you know, supports Amiibo on the Switch version. Similar to Mario Kart 8, Amiibo was added later via an update. And I always found the Amiibo support in the Wii U game to be just like the bare minimum, just Dumbo baby stuff here. I mean, like what? You scan the Toad Amiibo, and then Pixel Toad appears, and you just have to find him in the stages. And it just kind of felt like a really weird thing. It felt like an Easter egg that they turned into a selling point, which is exactly what they did. You know, they did similar things in like Super Mario 3D World or like New Super Luigi U, where like every stage has a hidden Luigi in there. I'm not sure if every stage has a hidden Luigi in 3D World, but at least every stage has a hidden Luigi in New Super Luigi U. And 3D World has a lot of them, where it's just like randomly you'll see like an 8-bit Luigi pop up. But yeah, they were like, they did the same thing in Captain Toad, where they're like, oh yeah, let's hide Pixel Toad in the stages. But to get him, you gotta scan the Toad Amiibo. That's stupid. And you know what? I think Nintendo agreed, because that's not what the Toad Amiibo does in this game. They made these little Pixel Toad challenges just like, hey, it's just a part of the game now. And regular Toad Amiibo just gives you a power-up. And this does work with the Mario Odyssey Amiibo to unlock the new stages built into this game based on Mario Odyssey. But that's about it. Yeah, I mean, like, you don't need the Mario Odyssey Amiibo to unlock the stages here. They just kind of help you unlock the stages earlier without having to go through a good chunk of the game. And the Toad Amiibo is just doing, like, whatever. Like, who cares? Hyrule Warriors originally worked with, like, every Amiibo, and they retain the same kind of functionality here, where, you know, Zelda-themed Amiibo, you unlock, like, more specialized items, whereas any other Amiibo will give you, like, stuff that isn't nearly as good, and it's more randomized. And very similar thing with, you know, the follow-up Age of Calamity. Pretty much like, yeah, you can scan any Amiibo, it'll give you something random. You know, scan a Zelda-themed Amiibo, it'll give you something a little more specialized. And yeah, this has always been just like the safest form of Amiibo support. Something where it's kind of hard to get upset about, but it's also really hard to get excited about. Where it's just like scanning Amiibo in Hyrule Warriors, it's just like playing the lottery, you know, which is also very fun. But don't tell my therapist I told you that. Pokken Tournament DX is incredibly strange, because the Wii U version launched initially with this Shadow Mewtwo Amiibo card bundled in. And the whole point of this was just like, yeah, you can unlock the special character Shadow Mewtwo early on by just scanning the Amiibo card. You know, I'm kind of like, what the fuck is the point of this being an Amiibo? Like, I bought the game, I didn't pre-order it, I just picked it up off the Best Buy shelf. I brought it home, and then it's just like, hey, scan this Amiibo card and you'll unlock Shadow Mewtwo early. I'm like, what did I do that's so special? You just gave me this card as a part of the game. You might as well just have Shadow Mewtwo unlocked from the start. But no, later versions of the game didn't include the Shadow Mewtwo card, so whatever. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, what the f am I gonna do with a Shadow Mewtwo card now? Like, this is like one of the most pointless Amiibo out there, other than just being an Amiibo. You can use it in games that just like support any Amiibo, but at the same time, like Shadow Mewtwo is just a Pokken Tournament exclusive character. It's not like an actual character, so it's just like in the future, there's nothing this card is gonna do. It's not gonna unlock Shadow Mewtwo in anything. Except, of course, Pokken Tournament DX. Like, look at that. Shadow Mewtwo's right there. And then in addition, hey, look at that. It's Amiibo compatible. Oh my god. What the f happened? Shadow Mewtwo cannot be unlocked with the Shadow Mewtwo card. The Amiibo support in this game is literally just the same as like the Hyrule Warriors thing. Just scan any Amiibo and you'll get just like something. You'll just get some random garbage. Now, of course, I'm not actually upset. Shadow Mewtwo is just available from the start in Pokken Tournament DX. And even in the Wii U game, it wasn't like he was locked behind the Amiibo. It was more so, you know, kind of like how the Mario Odyssey Amiibo unlocked those stages in Captain Toad early. Like, you could just unlock Shadow Mewtwo early with the Amiibo card. That's all the Amiibo card did. I'm just more so talking about how this Amiibo card is just, it's pointless. And that Amiibo feature where you just scan any Amiibo and you can unlock random stuff, like that was in the Wii U version before. I just wanted to give the Shadow Mewtwo card some shit. Of course, one of the most interesting Amiibo releases was Shovel Knight. This was the first third-party Amiibo, where Nintendo wasn't going out of their way to release it themselves. Yacht Club Games got the license to make their own Amiibo, showing that Amiibo were just like actual like Nintendo games, where it's like these Switch games are published by Nintendo and these Switch games are published by, you know, other third parties. Amiibo can be the exact same deal, and Shovel Knight proved it with the Shovel Knight Amiibo. This has always been just kind of a funky little guy. I think I read somewhere that this was produced out of the same factory that does like the Disney Infinity figures. You know, which just, you know, whatever, your fun fact of the day. But originally in the Wii U version, the Shovel Knight Amiibo would unlock a co-op mode. But then they eventually said, you know, hey, let's make that available for everybody. So now the Amiibo just unlocks, you know, so like some challenges and just some unique gear. And that was always the case for the Switch version. And eventually they did update the Wii U version to not require the Amiibo for co-op. So technically, the Amiibo support in the Wii U version is different from the Switch version, but also not at all. Well, hey, what about a Wii U game that came to Switch that never had Amiibo support before? Yeah, Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. This version does have Amiibo support, while the Wii U version never had anything in the slightest. Again, it's just kind of boring stuff, just like, hey, you know, scan the Amiibo, get a power-up. Like, why do Amiibo support at that point? And at the same time, why doesn't every game support Amiibo at that point? If you're gonna do something as lame as just scan this Amiibo and get a power-up, I don't understand why the other games don't support Amiibo, but I also don't understand why you're doing it in the first place, especially when you're releasing unique figures. The Mario 3D World Amiibo figures that they released alongside this game also just unlock power-ups. That's all they do. And to me, I kind of find the Amiibo support in this game to be really hidden. Like, it's not in the pause menu, it's not in anywhere like that. You have to hold down the D-pad button, and then the Amiibo, you know, logo comes up, and then you scan it to get, like, just a normal-ass power-up in a game that's already fairly easy. I guess the more interesting Amiibo support would be in Bowser's Fury, or if you scan the Bowser Amiibo in that game, Fury Bowser appears, which could be useful, just because, you know, Fury Bowser appears, that's when you can get, like, the Giga Cat Bell, and then you can, you know, like, you know, kick his ass. So it does have more of a gameplay purpose, but it's just also kind of funny because, you know, sometimes you don't want Fury Bowser to appear. So, you know, hey, if you buy a Bowser Amiibo figure, you can have him appear whenever you want. It's like getting paid to get just, like, punched in the fucking face. But hey, sometimes it's necessary to have him appear to progress in the game, and sometimes you may not want to wait for him to appear. At that point, I just question how, like, why you don't just have a feature in the game itself to just make him appear whenever you want. instead of just locking that behind an Amiibo figure, because that almost seems like a flaw at that point. But, you know, hey, still, you know, pay for it. And finally, Bayonetta 2, in terms of Wii U ports, the original Wii U game didn't support Amiibo. This version does, and you can unlock a lot of the extra stuff with the Amiibo figure. So there's a lot of Nintendo costumes in the game. So if you scan certain things like, you know, a Star Fox Amiibo or a Mario series Amiibo, you can get a lot of like the, you know, themed costumes. Of course, you can also scan the Bayonetta Amiibo to get a lot of extras. And none of this stuff requires Amiibo, which is something that you kind of notice with a lot of the Switch games with Amiibo support. It just seems like a lot of superfluous stuff, even more so than a lot of the stuff on Wii U. But then you have some games that just go so damn hard on Amiibo for like no reason on Switch. Of course, I'm talking the 2 Zelda remakes, remasters, whatever, on Switch. They just have kind of like, hey, here's a quality of life improvement that we're gonna unlock behind Amiibo. And here's something that's actually useful that we're gonna unlock behind Amiibo. So I love the Link's Awakening remake. I think this is the definitive way to play the game. Could they have gone a little further with it and made it even better? Yeah, but I love what it is. But they have this little, chamber dungeon editor kind of thing, and you know, like it doesn't go as far as you'd want it to. It's not like a Zelda maker, it's not like a real dungeon maker. It's more so you take rooms from dungeons in the actual game and you just kind of like put them in different locations, I guess. I don't know. It's pretty much just like a weird little randomizer mode that you can kind of edit your own little dungeon map, but you know, barely. You know, it's like a level editor where like you can't actually express yourself like whatsoever. So at that point, what is the point? But hey, the only way that you're actually going to be able to express yourself in any way in the Chamber Dungeons is with the Link's Awakening Amiibo, which I love this little thing. You know, Link's Awakening already has a very big toy aesthetic. So, you know, releasing an Amiibo figure where it's like, you know, like, hey, look at this guy. He looks just like he does in the game. It's so cool. But when you scan this into the game, you bring in Dark Link, which, you know, makes your chamber dungeon a little harder, which is like, okay, you know, whatever. It's kind of like a small thing, but it's still something that I think kind of makes the chamber dungeon editor mode feel a lot more worthwhile if you can actually like add elements like that to dungeons to make them feel more unique. But in addition, take a look at this. Use Amiibo to share and trade custom dungeons with your friends. You need Amiibo to share your dungeons. Why? Now, of course, looking into this, you can use any Zelda-themed Amiibo to do this. At that point, why not just any Amiibo in general? But still, I mean, like, that's just kind of silly. I don't think it's, like, that big of a deal, considering, like, the Chamber Dungeon editor in general isn't that big of a deal. They kind of deliberately made it not that big of a deal, but still, a little lame. But then we have Skyward Sword, all right? So, alongside this game, we got the Zelda and Loftwing Amiibo. And I gotta say, you know, like, by the time this released in 2021, Nintendo really nailed the quality of these Amiibo figures. Of course, they got a lot more expensive around this time. This in particular cost $25, which is just like insane. Back when the Amiibo launched for Smash for Wii U, they were like 13 bucks a pop. And even then, you know, in some cases, that was a little more expensive than the other Toys to Life figures. And eventually, Amiibo got their price raised to $16, but this one was like $25, and usually $25 was reserved for like the big boy Amiibo. To be fair, this is a pretty elaborate Amiibo figure. It is insanely detailed. It feels very hefty. It looks phenomenal. But still, you know, $25, man, I mean, I'm not going to complain because, you know, I was stupid enough to buy it. So at this point, I'm just kind of like, man, how far we've come, especially in terms of Amiibo support. Why? Use this Amiibo in the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD game to travel between the sky and the surface at any time. So, I'm not gonna act like that was like a huge problem with Skyward Sword. It's just not really the case at all. Pretty much, you know, you're flying in that game and you find, you know, like the area you want to go down on. And, you know, if you want to get back up to the sky, there are numerous of these like little bird posts in the game that you walk up to do such a thing. Like, they're plentiful. It's not like it's like a huge nuisance, but it is a quality of life change. You know, it is something where this Amiibo, you know, has a feature that does make the game even if it is ever so slightly, it makes it slightly more comfortable to play through. Once again, not a big deal. But what's really just strange is the fact that, like, this is the only Amiibo support in the game. There's no other Amiibo support. And there's a Skyward Sword Link Amiibo figure that they released back in, like, 2017 that, like, they just don't use. They don't use any Zelda Amiibo in this game. So the fact that, like, this game only supports this one Amiibo figure, I just have to question, like, why even support Amiibo in general? Is it because, like, the other Zelda games on Switch support Amiibo? So you're kind of like, oh, well, we gotta support Amiibo. Like, I don't understand. When a game only supports one Amiibo, like one specific Amiibo, it's just weird to me. I just kind of feel like, what's the point? But in my opinion, I don't think the Amiibo support in this game is, like, horrible. It's just strange. It's just strangely kind of like locking certain things behind Amiibo, and it doesn't really take away much from the games. It's just kind of like, why are you doing that? You know, especially when, like, these other games, like, that support Amiibo on Switch, like they barely support Amiibo. It's so superfluous. But then you kind of go a little too far with the Zelda remasters and remakes. Why? I feel like they learned their lesson with Metroid Dread. So, you know, the game that preceded this, Metroid Samus Returns, had Amiibo support. And, you know, that release with some cool Amiibo figures. You know, you had Samus and the Metroid. The Metroid was a little squishy. That was pretty cool. But those Amiibo figures unlocked, like, some pretty substantial content. Like, the Metroid Amiibo unlocked the Fusion Suit, and also, like, a new difficulty mode, which is just like, you know, like, hey, you know, like, that's a new way to play the game, and I think a lot of people got upset by that. Do you need the difficulty mode? No, but it's also like, that would have just been included in the actual game, so it's just like, okay, come on, guys. So what did they do in Metroid Dread instead? You basically just get health. And, like, they released some cool Amiibo alongside this game. You know, you have Samus, and you have the Emmy. You know, like, these are some cool looking Amiibo, and yep, they made sure they don't do diddly dick in this game. It's pretty much just, hey, some health upgrades, that's it, some missiles, like some ammo. I'd say Mario Odyssey's Amiibo support takes things a little far, and in some cases, not necessarily in terms of locking content, but more so just kind of like just kind of cheating. Basically, if you scan Bowser, you reveal, like, where the purple coins are. I'm like, well, that's a bit far. To be fair, you know, like, if you're on, like, the last two or something, that's a bitch to find. So it's just like, okay, but, like, you know, that's a little cheap. But it's like, Bowser has the best one there. Mario, if you scan a Mario Amiibo, you just get invincibility for a bit. If you scan the Peach Amiibo, you just get a heart. I mean, I want the Bowser shit. But at the same time, like, that's pretty much just cheating. That's pretty much like the cheapest thing to do in the game is just like, oh, yep, that's where that's where all the coins are. Okay, cool. But listen, obviously, the biggest deal for Amiibo was Animal Crossing New Horizons. And the Amiibo support in this game, it just felt like, you know, they felt like they had to do it because, like, they made so many Animal Crossing Amiibo with not only the cards, but the figures for, you know, the previous 2 spin-off games. So, yeah, obviously, you want to bring that over to New Horizons. Basically, if you scan a certain character's Amiibo card, you can invite them to your island, and, you know, that way you can sort of pick and choose which villagers you want, which I feel like kind of takes away a bit from what makes Animal Crossing Animal Crossing. If you want to do that, more power to you. But I think it's important to I mean, like, hey, in real life, you don't pick your neighbors. So, you know, it kind of makes it a little fun. I think what's fun about Animal Crossing is the fact that, like, you may not like some of your neighbors. You may really love some of your neighbors, and that just makes it sting that much more when one of them moves out, or it becomes that much greater of a deal when one of them moves out, you know? But the Amiibo support in this game ain't doing anything new. This is something that they introduced to Animal Crossing New Leaf. You know, they pretty much had to update that game in 2016 because they had all these Animal Crossing Amiibo, and nobody was happy with the fact that, like, the games that used them were stupid, and I'm pretty sure a lot of retailers were not very happy that they had just, like, these mountains of Animal Crossing Amiibo cards and figures that weren't really being sold because, like, I mean, come on, Nintendo. Why the hell did you think you could make 4 series of Animal Crossing Amiibo cards? to work with this game. So they already did this in New Leaf, but, you know, pretty much did the exact same thing in New Horizons. But that pretty much, like, rejuvenated Animal Crossing Amiibo cards. So much so that, like, years later, they did a Series 5 of Animal Crossing Amiibo cards after the series was pretty much said and done. Like, because New Horizons was so popular, people wanted to get their own villagers and all of that stuff. So, like, yeah, on eBay, these Amiibo cards actually became, like, a lot more expensive. So yeah, New Horizons doesn't have unique Amiibo support, but it had very lucrative Amiibo support. Pretty much gave Amiibo like a second wave of life here, because outside of this game, what the hell was there? There is Smash Bros. Ultimate, and you know, the Amiibo support in that game is pretty much the exact same as Smash for Wii U. Maybe a little adjusted because, you know, Smash Ultimate is different from Smash Wii U. So, of course, you know, like if your Amiibo character had any custom moves in Smash for Wii U, you can bring that character into Ultimate, but it is going to be, you know, like you can't bring that Ultimate character back into Smash Wii U. And yeah, that character is not going to have custom moves in Smash Ultimate because Smash Ultimate doesn't have custom moves. But yeah, you still train your Amiibo figure, just like you did in the previous game. There's also some funny little things where if you scan like the Shovel Knight Amiibo, you get the Shovel Knight Spirit, which is like, okay. But yeah, it's pretty much just more of the same from Smash Wii U. But that also makes it like some of the best Amiibo support. Like, I'm not saying it's like incredible Amiibo support, but in terms of like what Nintendo wanted Amiibo to do, you know, you don't want to make it feel like you're locking content, but you want to give them like a substantial thing for scanning Amiibo into a game. Like, the way Smash Brothers does it is, like, perfect. In Super Mario Party, if you scan a certain playable character's Amiibo, you unlock a sticker. This is what I'm talking about. Like, the Amiibo support in these games on Switch have basically become, like, absolutely nothing. They already weren't much on Wii U, but, like, here, like, it's just, like, what's even the point? Because then you have games that just flat out don't support Amiibo. Super Mario Maker 2, after Mario Maker 1 supported Amiibo in such a cool way, you unlock the Mystery Mushroom costumes. So many Amiibo were supported, practically like every one at that time. And you could like play as those characters in the original Mario 1 art style. And like, you didn't also need the Amiibo. You could just play the game regularly and unlock it through like normal gameplay. I loved that Amiibo support. But they not only removed the Mystery Mushroom costumes out of Mario Maker 2, they don't have Amiibo support in general, which is strange because, you know, like you have like the Super Mario Brothers 30th anniversary Amiibo here, and you know, that released alongside Mario Maker, so, you know, like, hey, okay, this isn't supported anymore. But then you have games like Luigi's Mansion 3 and Paper Mario the Origami King, new Pokemon Snap, Mario Tennis Aces, Mario Golf Super Rush, Mario Strikers Battle League, WarioWare Get It Together, and WarioWare Move It after WarioWare Gold supported Amiibo. Nintendo Switch Sports, that would have made sense to include Amiibo support because like that game is based entirely around unlocking cosmetics for your character, so it's just like, why the hell not include like, oh, you scan a Mario Amiibo and you get Mario costumes in the game? I don't know. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle included Amiibo support back in 2017. Pretty much, if you scan an Amiibo, you can get like a unique weapon. Then Mario plus Rabbids Sparks of Hope had no Amiibo support. Detective Pikachu on 3DS had Amiibo support with that big fucking chunk of an Amiibo. That thing was like the biggest Amiibo for no reason. I don't understand like why it was so big other than just to have a big Amiibo. There was no point to it. And even then, when you scan the Amiibo in Detective Pikachu, it has like the worst Amiibo support of all time. You just get all the cutscenes up until what you've been playing. And it's just like, I've already seen these cutscenes. Why do I get this for scanning a damn Amiibo? But then Detective Pikachu Returns on Switch doesn't support Amiibo. Neither does Mario Wonder or Mario RPG. Bayonetta 3 doesn't support it, even though the Bayonetta 2 Switch port does. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition doesn't support Amiibo, even though Xenoblade Chronicles 3D on 3DS supported the Shulk Amiibo, and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and 2 Torna don't support Amiibo, but then randomly Xenoblade Chronicles 3 did. Like, this is just what I'm talking about. Amiibo support is so spotty on Switch, and Nintendo will go, like, months, maybe even a year, without mentioning an Amiibo figure, without releasing a new Amiibo figure. And then randomly, they'll like say, like, oh yeah, we're putting out like 4 of them, and we're gonna update a game to support Amiibo, and it's gonna be the most worthless support of all time. But I think that shows what Amiibo are to Nintendo. They're just kinda fun little extra collectibles for them to put out whenever they kinda want to. They aren't as lucrative as a part of their business as it once was. But at the same time, like, they don't have to keep up any, like, quota with these things. They can just kind of put them out whenever they want to. There's no necessarily, like, oh, this many Amiibo need to release this year. Because I remember back in, like, 2018, up until, like, the Smash Brothers line continued in December of 2018, they had, like, nothing that year. It was like Detective Pikachu. For some reason, Diablo 3 had like the Loot Goblin. Dark Souls Remastered had the Solera Vestora amiibo, where you just pretty much perform like a taunt with it. But like, it was obvious amiibo was not a core thing for Nintendo to focus on at that time, which was strange because only like 2-3 years ago, like it was such like a big part of their business. It was kind of like the the most important part of their business, it felt like. But now on Switch, it feels like there's no rhyme or reason as to which games get amiibo support and which games don't. It does genuinely kind of feel like a game gets amiibo support if the developers remember amiibo exist. But even when they do, the stuff that amiibo unlock half the time is just like the most superfluous, worthless thing I've ever seen in my life. And half the time it's like incredibly hidden. Did you know Resident Evil Revelations 1 and 2 have amiibo support? It's literally just, oh, scan an amiibo, get like some bonus points. But then, hey, if you scan a Capcom amiibo, you get more bonus points. Nepotism. Oh, but then they put Mega Man 11 out, and that has amiibo support, and if you scan a Mega Man amiibo, hell, they made a Mega Man 11 specific amiibo. All you get is fucking health. That's all you get. Little Nightmares Complete Edition only works with the Pac-Man amiibo, and you just get a Pac-Man costume. But that's kind of funny. You can fight Shovel Knight in Azure Striker Gunvolt 2 by scanning the Shovel Knight amiibo. You know, that's kind of fun. All the Kirby retail releases support amiibo, but it's literally like all the most basic stuff of just, here's a bonus item. And like when I say bonus items, I mean like you just get a power up like you would in the game. Like you get a health upgrade. That's all you do. That's all you get. I don't care. Like I said, at that point, why doesn't every game support amiibo? That just seems like the most basic shit. Nier Automata supports amiibo. Pop this on and you get a health upgrade. Nier Automata does not include amiibo support and does not give you a health upgrade for scanning Isabelle. I just refuse to spread misinformation. The Miitopia amiibo support makes me squeal. Once again, I told you I don't like spreading misinformation. Because it does. I like this. It supports so many amiibo. You just scan it and then you get like a little extra costume. You talk to a Nintendo fanatic and it's just like, oh man, like Ness is supported in the game. That's really cool. And yeah, if an amiibo isn't supported in the game, they'll just give you a little extra stuff. But you know, I like the costume stuff, especially in a game like this where it's all about costumes. I don't understand games that are about costumes that don't include amiibo support when it makes all the sense in the world for them to include amiibo support. Hell, Skyrim did it. Skyrim includes amiibo support, and it's all based around Zelda. If you scan Zelda amiibo, then you get Zelda-themed stuff. It's crazy. They didn't have to do it, but it's just like, yeah, this is so cool. But the Splatoon games, I mean, I feel like they got a lot of flack for the first game. The fact that the Squid amiibo kind of unlocked like some legitimate like challenges that, you know, it was kind of like, hey, that's some substantial gameplay there. I feel like they just kind of like toned it back. You know, they wanted to, you know, include more amiibo, make more Splatoon amiibo, but at the same time, like pretty much Splatoon 2 and 3 both include like the same type of amiibo support. Here it says get exclusive in-game gear. It's pretty much just, hey, you get some gear and you can take photos with your amiibo. Oh boy. And Tears of the Kingdom also includes amiibo support, but it's kind of more of the same from Breath of the Wild, but at the same time, just also not doing like anything nearly as cool. Like Wolf Link doesn't appear in Tears of the Kingdom. It's pretty much just scan a Zelda series amiibo, get some cool materials. Like, that's about it. Whatever, I've been all over the place with amiibo on Nintendo Switch, but can you really blame me? It doesn't really feel like there's a core direction with these things. But to be fair, I feel like that's because you could sense a clear direction when Nintendo was putting out amiibo during the Wii U and 3DS eras. And that was definitely because they had to have a clear direction, because amiibo was kind of their core focus, or at least one of their core focuses at that time. Whereas now, they are mostly seen as fun little bonus collectibles Nintendo does. They're collectibles that Nintendo creates by themselves in-house that can work with games. And, you know, that is something unique compared to the dozens of other Nintendo figurine lines out there. Every year, I kind of think, is this the end of Amiibo? When will Amiibo actually end? And I think Nintendo doesn't really see it ever ending, but also doesn't really see it being like as big as it once was. Every year you can kind of expect like a handful of figures to release. And in terms of in-game support, it's always going to be pretty minute stuff. It's completely superfluous. But that's what makes stuff like the Skyward Sword HD Amiibo that perplexing. Like, you're going to lock like a feature like that behind Amiibo. As unnecessary as it is, because like it's not like a huge quality of life improvement, but it is a quality of life improvement nonetheless. But outside of a few examples, the Amiibo support on Nintendo Switch is always very minor and also fairly well hidden. Like, did you know that Super Mario Party had Amiibo support? Would you know how to scan Amiibo in Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury without looking it up online? Hell, I'm sure a lot of people don't even realize that certain Amiibo figures are releasing at some times, or if new ones get announced. Amiibo on Nintendo Switch is just kinda weird. I don't really see Nintendo phasing the line out, but I also don't really see them doing anything substantial with it. So where does that put things? I think it's just in a very comfortable space. I think Nintendo just does Amiibo when they kind of want to, and they put a support in games when they kind of want to, and there's really no, like, worries here, you know? It's kind of just like, hey, you know, we'll put out figures, and, you know, you can buy them if you want to. You're not missing out on a ton if you don't buy them, so it's just like, there you go. And you know what? After 10 years of being on the market, the fact that Amiibo is still going regardless is pretty damn impressive. The fact we were able to complete the Smash Brothers line is impressive. The fact that they can put out Amiibo figures based on characters from Xenoblade Chronicles 3. They don't have to focus on core characters. They can kind of do more niche ones is really cool. It may not feel like it's in a good place, but I feel like Nintendo is pretty happy with the fact that they can kind of put Amiibo out whenever they want, and it doesn't really matter. And yeah, judging by the support in some games, yeah, it doesn't matter. Why the f does this support Amiibo?